15 years, she whispered. 15 birthdays I missed. 15 letters you never saw. He stared at her blankly. She reached for the lockbox at her feet. They're all here. He took a step back. The man who raised him called from inside. Close the door, son. But her eyes haunted, pleading held him still. I named you Eli. She said. His breath caught. No one ever told him that name. She stood there, arms outstretched, a key dangling from her finger. 15 years ago, I lost you. She swallowed. Today. I'm asking if I can earn 1 minute. The first thing he noticed was her feet bare against the concrete, red from the cold, trembling like they'd forgotten what standing felt like. The wind cut through the neighborhood in little gasps, stirring dry leaves and the sharp smell of chimney smoke. He thought she was a stranger, maybe a lost neighbor, maybe a mistake. She didn't speak right away, Eli James, as he still thought of himself, then held the door halfway open. His hoodie sleeves pushed past his knuckles. Behind him, a football game hummed on low, normal, safe. Then she lifted her head. 15 years, she said, her voice shredded at the edges. 15 birthdays I missed. He didn't answer. He didn't know how to respond to someone looking at him like that, like she already knew what his first word had been. Her coat was too thin for the season, sleeves stained at the cuffs. In her hands, a silver lockbox with an old hospital bracelet, curled around the handle like a forgotten ribbon. The kind of box someone only carried when they had nowhere else left to keep the things that mattered. A gust of wind pushed against the open door. From inside the house, his father's voice cut in. James inside, now. Her eyes flicked too. The door, not fear, not anger. Just the kind of look that said, of course he'd be the one who answers first. She looked back at the boy. I'm your mother, she said. He stared, no comprehension. Just the feeling that everything in his lungs had turned to glass. She crouched slowly, knees folding like a prayer, and set the box gently on the step between them. Her hands shook not from cold, but from holding too much for too long. On her wrist, a faint scar, horizontal, not fresh, not forgotten. You don't have to open it now, she whispered. Just don't throw it away, James. Louder this time. She flinched at the name. I didn't name you that, she said. They did, he blinked. I named you Eli, and there it was. The first crack, not in the world, but in him. Like hearing a song he couldn't remember learning the words to. Something familiar under the unfamiliar. His fingers curled tighter. Into his sleeves. The man inside stepped into view now. His father, arms crossed, jaw clenched. The kind of stillness that always came before thunder. What did I tell you? He said, eyes locked on her. Don't talk to crazy. She didn't. Look at him. Just at the boy. You were never a mistake, she said. She's lying, the man snapped. Get in the house. But the boy didn't move. Heartbeat skipped. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a key, thin and bent at the edge, held it out on her open palm. It opens the box. Letters, photos, things I was never allowed to send. Silence dropped like snow. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added, there's a drawing in there. You made it when you were 4, crayon, yellow dog. You don't remember making it, but I remember the sound you made when you finished. Like you thought you'd built the sun. Inside the house, a glass clinked. A door shut harder than it needed to. But the photo hid something worse. His eyes dropped to the box. He didn't take the key, not yet. I should go, she said. You're cold. Still barefoot, she stood, winced. She had lipstick on one tooth, smudged like she hadn't looked in a mirror before coming here. Or maybe the mirror cracked and she looked anyway. She stepped backward. 1, 2, then turned. As she walked away, she didn't look back. Not once. She had learned after all these years that hope was a cruelty when held too tightly. That even When you carry the truth in your hands. Sometimes the door still closes. He watched her until she disappeared, past the neighbor's hedges. He didn't pick up the box. Not yet. But he didn't throw it away either. Some names are scars. Others become songs. The hallway creaked when he stepped across it. Box tucked beneath his jacket like something stolen. He didn't breathe until he'd shut the bedroom door, turned the lock, and sat on the edge of the bed with the silver box between his knees. He hadn't opened it at the door. He didn't know why. Maybe because a part of him still thought it would explode emotionally. Not literally. The latch stuck for a moment, as if the box didn't want to open either. Then it gave with a soft click. The first thing he saw was a folded blanket baby. Blue, stitched at the corner with a name he didn't recognize. Eli. The thread was faded, the E barely visible, but it was there. Beneath it, envelopes stacked in order, each one numbered. 1 through 15. His age, his hands hovered above them like they might crumble if touched. He picked one at random. 13. Inside. A letter written in looping. Cautious handwriting. You're probably taller than me now. Your hair always had a curl to it, even when you were screaming. He read 3 lines before folding it back up. There was a faint smell inside the box, lavender or dusted perfume, like something pressed between the pages for years. Like she'd been trying to keep part of herself alive in paper. He dug deeper. Beneath the letters, a torn ultrasound photo. Black and white, no date, just the ghost of a tiny shape. A music box lay beneath that cheap ceramic with a chipped corner and tiny painted stars. He turned the key. It clicked, then spun. The lullaby that came out was off tune. But familiar. He didn't remember it. Not exactly. But he hummed it sometimes. Downstairs, the front door opened. He froze. A voice called out his father, returning earlier than expected. He snapped the box shut, shoved it beneath the bed, and straightened the blanket as if that could erase what he'd seen. A knock. The door opened anyway. His father's silhouette filled the doorway, all keys and tension. What was that? What? You were humming. No, I wasn't. He stepped in, eyes sweeping the room like a security light. Then they landed on the floor. A corner of the baby blue blanket was visible. The man didn't move, didn't raise his voice. Just walked to the bed and knelt, pulled the box out, opened it. He stared at the contents, like they were landmines. Then, slowly he pulled out the letter marked 1, tore it in half without reading it. Then another, then another. The boy tried to stop him. You can't. I can. His voice didn't rise, it dropped. Because none of this should exist. She was supposed to stay gone. She's my mother. She gave you up. No. She didn't. A long pause. She lost the right. You don't remember what it was like. You cried for hours. She forgot to feed you. You know how many nights I sat by your crib because she wouldn't wake up? She said, she lies. That's what she does. That's why she ended up in that place. The boy's breath caught. What place? The man didn't answer. He stood, picked up one letter, held it over the small fireplace. I saved you from her. Don't make me regret it. The paper curled and blackened, but the photo hid something worse. A receipt fluttered, loose from one of the envelopes dated 2 months after the alleged breakdown. Formula. Diapers. Doctor visit. Not the actions of a woman who forgot to feed her child. The boy reached down, palmed the receipt before his father saw it, tucked it into his pocket without thinking. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. The man left without closing the door. The music box had stopped playing. In the silence, he turned the key again. Just once. Just enough to hear the melody start and falter, like something half remembered, like a name you weren't supposed to forget. Memory floated forward in his mind. Soda cans clinking at a backyard party 16 years ago, laughter that ended with screams. Then silence. Eli unfolded the first letter with trembling fingers. The paper felt brittle, reluctant. As he cleared his throat, He read aloud the gentle lines. You hummed that lullaby the night you fell asleep in my arms. You squeezed my finger and said you loved me. His heart loosened. Until her next sentence. That night, Lena came into the room carrying her own drawing. She wanted you to meet her. He froze. His father's boot against the hallway floor sounded like a verdict. The door slammed hard enough to make books rattle on the shelf. You want to know who she really is? Ask her what happened to Lena. The words echoed in the silence when his dad turned and walked out. Heartbeat stuttered. Eli's breath caught. Who was Lena? He looked again at the letter, lines becoming accusations. She never forgave me for choosing you. There was no sign of Lena's name in his life, no mention from school, no grief, no news. Yet this paper trembled with weight. He shut the letter, but the question hovered. A framed photo pulled his gaze. His mother as a teenager, arm draped over another girl's shoulder. Lena. The colors in the photo were washed out, yellowing, same blue as the blanket. They looked inseparable, joyful, until something all brightness vanished. He touched the photo gently, like it might shatter. Heartbeat slowed. Eli collected all letters and placed them back in the box. Underneath lay a small locket inside, a portrait of two girls in prom dresses. One was Lena, one was his mother. They smiled. But someone scratched Lena out. Scratched until her face blurred under the silver. He gasped. The room's air turned heavy enough to suffocate memories. He slid the locket into his pocket, heart pounding. Downstairs, muffled voices. His mother's soft, rehearsed denial in court. His father's cold, controlled rage. The echo of a judge saying custody transfer. A restraining order sealed. No one asked what she'd lost. He pressed the locket against his chest. But the photo hid something worse. He found a torn newspaper clipping stuck inside one envelope. Headline: Teen girl still missing, no leads. A date: 2 months before he was born. The missing girl's face was Lena's. Same dimple, same curl of hair. The article called her just a girl. The same girl who was in the photo. His mother's best friend. Until someone decided to save their own reputation. He closed his eyes. Another heartbeat pinch. His father entered again. This time with a coffee mug trembling in his hand, badge of his unease. I can't let you keep that. He gestured to the box, then hesitated, resting on the desk. It's just letters. But she wrote them for me, Eli said, tone gone tight. I deserve to know, the man sagged. Drop of fatigue in his posture, his jaw tightened. He looked away. For a flicker, he seemed less an antagonist and more a frightened father trying to protect a boy he believed belonged to the lie. Nothing about her life was perfect, he said quietly. She couldn't keep 2 kids safe. Eli reached for the locket in his pocket, but the man saw him. You think she's a hero? She lost Lena, the man said, voice cracking. You don't know what she let go. Eli shook his head. Maybe she lost everything trying to save us. The man turned away and left the room again, closing the door so quietly it sounded like a breath. Silence piled into the corner of the room. Eli sat back down, took the locket from his pocket, pressed his thumb against the scratched face. His chest ached. Some names are scars. Others become songs. The page turned on its spine. Silence followed. A breeze stirred the edge of her coat as she stood beside the school gate, barely noticed by the other parents. Eli saw her before she saw him. Hands in his pockets, backpack slung low. He walked slowly, like each step meant breaking something. She looked smaller than he remembered. Or maybe she was just tired in a new way. You lied, he said. No hello. Her mouth opened, then closed. Again, she stepped aside, out of the flow of children laughing behind them. A bird flew overhead. No sound but the flap of its wings. I didn't lose you, she said. I lost the case. That's different, he frowned. Why? They said I was unstable, said I made up stories about Lena. Her voice barely held. He studied her, waiting for a sign that this was another performance. But her fingers trembled slightly only when she thought he wasn't looking. They put me in a place for observation. She almost laughed. Observation. Like I was a painting or a threat. He looked down. Dust curled around his sneakers. Were you? Her eyes flicked to his. No, I just wouldn't tell them where Lena was. The air changed. Heartbeat hook. What do you mean, wouldn't? His voice sharpened. You knew? A car door slammed in the distance. She didn't flinch. I promised her. Before she vanished. Before everything, I made a vow I didn't understand. She reached into her coat pocket and held out an envelope, thick, sealed in wax. The seal had a fingerprint smudged through it. Read this in private, she said. There's more. He didn't take it. Not yet. You kept her secret, and you lost me? I thought if I broke the promise, I'd lose both of you. Gull cried above them. She reached again this time from her bag and handed him a small cassette recorder, old and worn. Don't press play yet. It's not for here. But the photo hid something worse. Who else knows about this? He asked, nodding at the envelope. Just one person, she said. But they think the tape's gone. It was my insurance. He finally took the envelope. It was heavier than it looked. They stood without speaking. I never got to fight for you, she whispered. Every time I tried, I was told I was hysterical, grieving, dangerous. I wasn't unstable. I was erased. Her voice cracked, but her spine stayed straight. The bell rang inside the school. A tide of children surged out. Laughter, shouting, lunchboxes skipping. One brushed past her and Eli. She blinked as if waking. Why didn't you come for me after? Her mouth pressed into a line. Because they made you scared of me. You looked at me like I was a stranger, or worse. He held the envelope tighter. Maybe you were. A pause. Her eyes didn't water, but her shoulders pulled inward. You were singing, he said, voice small now. On the tape? She nodded. A lullaby. The same one I sang the night before they took you. Another silence. I remember that, he said, barely above a whisper. A gust caught her scarf and twisted it like a noose. She fixed it quickly. He saw the lipstick stain on her sleeve, red, imperfect, rushed. Same color from the photo, from the mirror, from the china plate in the box. He turned to go, then hesitated. If justice still matters, he'll want the next page. She didn't say goodbye. Just stood still, watching as he disappeared around the corner with her voice and her secrets in his hands. Later, in his room, headphones pressed tight, he pressed play. The tape hissed first, then her voice began, soft and uneven, singing his name like it had been a prayer. He didn't realize he was crying until the song cracked in her voice, broke mid-note. The tape kept spinning. But the silence was the loudest part. It began with the click of a cassette door closing, then a breath. Then her voice. If you're hearing this, it means I never got to hold you again. Eli sat on the floor, knees bent, back pressed to his closet. The lockbox was open beside him, its lid a crooked mouth. Dust smudged his fingers. Inside, a folded court transcript, a torn receipt with lipstick on it, and the tape recorder black, chipped, stubborn. I was told to disappear. Told it would be better for you if I just became the villain. Heartbeat hook. She sounded younger. Not fragile, but raw, like someone speaking through blood in their throat. October 12, 2010. That night, your father was there, he told me. If I said anything about Lena, they'd make sure you never knew I existed. He said he'd make you hate me. The audio cracked. Something in the background, a child's laugh, a train. But the photo hid something worse. Eli gripped the locket in his palm. It had always been around her neck in the old photos, half open. Inside, no picture. Just a curled piece of paper, yellowed, unreadable now. They said I was unwell, that I invented stories to cope. But the truth is, Lena asked me not to say where she'd gone. She was scared, not of me. A pause. You could hear her thinking, or maybe remembering. Then, she was scared of him, his stomach folded inward. A pressure behind his eyes he didn't want to name. He'd asked his father once, when he was 9, why his mother left. His father had just shrugged, almost kindly. She broke. The sound of a chair scraping in the background. Her voice again. I had documents, receipts, a file Lena left with me. I hid them in the attic, behind your grandfather's record player. I told the court I didn't know anything. And they said I was withholding, that I was complicit, so they put me away. He opened the folder next to him. Inside, a copy of a medical form. Admittance, 2 weeks. Not even involuntary, I recorded. This after the last court date. After I stood there, and they told me I wasn't fit to love you. She inhaled sharply, like she'd just remembered something she forgot to cry about. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. He wanted to shut it off. But he didn't. I used to sing to you, you know. You'd put your ear to my chest and hum along like you already knew the tune. I called you my echo. There was a faint melody beneath her voice now, like she'd added it after. Just a few chords. And humming unsteady but familiar. I locked the box the day they silenced me, I thought. Maybe one day, when you were older, when the noise cleared, maybe you'd find it, and maybe you'd listen. He stared at the court transcript, one section circled in red. A line from a neighbor's testimony. She seemed calm, actually, just quiet. She smiled at me and said, "This is how ghosts begin." His hand slipped from the paper. A small metal USB lay beneath it, cold, untouched. He thought about his father's hands. The way they always trembled just slightly when folding a shirt. The way he avoided questions by fixing the car. He thought about Lena's name, carved into the old maple behind their house. Scratched so deep even moss couldn't cover it. One name stayed, one name vanished. But neither belonged to who she thought. He stood, knees shaking. Picked up the box. Closed it gently, like a coffin. Downstairs, the house was too quiet. He left the recorder on the floor. The last note still playing a soft, cracked hum that used to be his lullaby. The final line hit, not in words, but in the sound of his footsteps. Leaving just as her voice whispered, almost too faint to catch, "I never left. They locked the door behind me." The table was set like a memory trying too hard. The china had lipstick ghosts on the rims, even though no one wore lipstick in this house anymore. Eli poured water into glasses with the kind of quiet that dares someone to break it. Across from him, his father adjusted the salt shaker until it faced north. He always said north. Eli watched him stir his tea without drinking. The spoon hit porcelain like a metronome, a countdown. He hadn't planned to say it tonight. But silence had been starving him. "Where were you?" Eli asked, "the night Lena disappeared?" The spoon stopped. The air turned sideways. A soft, almost imperceptible shift, like someone just removed all the oxygen. "That's a hell of a thing to bring to dinner. You told me Mom made her up." His father's hands moved to his lap, fingers pressing against each other like prayer or pressure. "You've been digging through that box, haven't you?" "I'm not digging," Eli said. "I'm finally reading." Heartbeat hook. His father leaned back, mask still mostly on. "She poisoned you against me. You're repeating her delusions like gospel." Eli reached into his coat and pulled out the photo. Slid it across the table like a loaded weapon. It stopped next to the roast chicken no one had touched, a party. Late 2000s, everyone laughing. His mother, young, alive in her eyes. Lena beside her, arm looped tight. And there he was, his father between them, hand resting on Lena's lower back. "You said this was taken months before Lena vanished," Eli said. "But that can't be true. Because she's wearing the bracelet Mom bought her in July. And the receipt." He opened his palm, torn, lipstick smudge on the edge. "Was in the box." It's dated 2 nights before she disappeared. The chicken steamed like it didn't know it was dead. Son, you lied. I protected you. You erased her. I was trying to save what was left of this family, but the photo hid something worse. His father's voice cracked when he finally said her name. Lena wasn't who you think she was. No, Eli said, voice low. She was more. The next moment arrived not with thunder, but with a letter. Eli unfolded it slowly, like it might bleed. She wrote this after the trial. He placed it beside the photo, 1 page, smudged ink. Her last letter. She said Lena wasn't just a friend. She said she was her sister. His father's face fell in fractions. The kind of collapse that's been rehearsed in private. He covered his mouth, then dropped his hand as if it had betrayed him too. I didn't want it to end like this, he whispered. You didn't want it to begin. A single tear rolled down the older man's cheek. Not cinematic, ugly, unfinished. Thought, if I kept it quiet I could protect you from the mess, from the blood and the roots. Eli stood. The USB felt heavy in his pocket. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. He took the photo back, but left the letter. His father didn't move, didn't beg. Just stared at his plate like it might feed him truth. 1 name stayed. 1 name vanished. But neither belonged to who she thought. Outside, the night waited like a held breath. Inside, the lipstick shimmered faintly on the rim of her teacup. The courthouse smelled like dust and secrets. Eli waited in the records room, tracing a faded scar on his wrist, an old cut from the day he tried to open the box too early. Back when it was locked with tape and guilt. Back when he still thought silence was safety. The clerk returned with a folder that didn't feel heavy enough to carry what it held. No grand entrance, no gavel. Just paper and ruin. He opened it slowly. The words were small, cold, the emergency. Order had never been reversed. There was no signature from his mother surrendering custody. Only a note. Voluntary absence pending psychiatric evaluation. Then dates that bled into each other. Then silence. It wasn't an exit. It was an erasure. A line had been drawn through her name, not by law, but by rumor. His father's whisper campaign had done what no court could. 1 call to the school, another to the pastor. Enough doubt, enough shame. Her world fell apart like it had been built from matchsticks. He stared at the sentence. Temporary custody. Granted to father. Pending return of mother. Pending. Like a breath that never got to finish. He folded the file and didn't look up when the lawyer said, "You're not the first son to sit in that chair." The elevator ride down was slow and silent. A woman stood beside him, holding a toddler who pointed to the locket around Eli's neck. Pretty, the girl whispered. Wasn't always, Eli said. Heartbeat hook. Back home. He spread the contents of the box across the bed. Receipts, letters. The birthday card never sent. 1 tape with no label. He clicked it into the old player. Static. Then her voice. I didn't leave you. They left me. He sat there long after it ended. The room didn't feel like his anymore, just borrowed. Space from a past he didn't agree to inherit. The next day, he went to the school. Not as a student, but as a reckoning. The principal's hands trembled as he took the envelope. I don't want your apology, Eli said. I want your signature, acknowledging what you knew. And when you knew it, from there, it moved fast. He sent the video to his closest friends. Not all replied. Some hearts can't hold too many versions of the same story. Then he hit upload. My real mom. The truth they buried. His voice cracked once. He didn't edit it out. They said she was unstable, but they never asked why she stopped smiling after Lena vanished. They said she chose to leave me. But this, he held the court document to the lens. This says otherwise. The video climbed past 100,000 views in a day. But the photo hid something worse. He hadn't shown the last tape. Not yet. The one marked with just a lipstick kiss and the letter E heartbeat hook. He thought about revenge. Thought about forwarding the emails he found. The ones where his father begged the school counselor to call his ex-wife unsafe. But there was something more brutal than revenge. Truth without apology. At night, he walked to the river. Tossed the torn receipt into the water and watched the ink run like it had waited years to cry. Some names are scars. Others become songs. He placed the locket in the camera frame, let it turn once on the chain, and whispered, "You were always mine, even when they renamed you." Then he hit record again, and this time, the silence said everything. She used to hum when she brushed. His hair, just 3 strokes, always 3, even on the morning she was too tired to smile. It wasn't the song he remembered, it was the rhythm, the silence between each pull. How it almost said sorry. Now, years later, the bench they sat on didn't creak under them, but it felt like it should. Like something old remembering what it meant to hold weight. Her fingers were folded in her lap, twisted like ribbon. She wore the same lipstick as the photo he found in the box, the one she kissed the envelope with. But this time, it had faded. At the corners, he stared at her hands, not her face. Too much lived in her eyes. He wasn't sure what his could take. "I kept thinking I'd see you at 17, she said. "Like I could skip the worst part and land where it still counted." He nodded. A sharp one. Not agreement. A placeholder for the scream that never came. Heartbeat hook. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "It's marked 16, she whispered. "I wrote it the night before, the first birthday I missed. I never mailed it. I didn't think I had the right." He took it, didn't open it. Just felt its weight like a bruise he'd forgotten. "To protect, why here?" he asked, voice rough. "This is where I sat the day the papers were supposed to reverse. I waited. For a call, for a sign, for anything. And none came." She nodded. "Just your father's silence." He finally looked at her, really looked. She wasn't thinner, just quieter, like a song learned in the wrong key. Her necklace was the same simple gold locket, tucked beneath. Her sweater like a heartbeat she didn't trust the world to hear. He whispered, "I don't forgive the years." She didn't flinch. "Neither do I." They sat in the pause. The wind touched his face like it knew it shouldn't stay long. In the distance, a child screamed in joy, one of those innocent wails that sounded like grief to anyone who'd lost time. He pulled something from his pocket. A receipt, torn in half, not from her. From the home he'd grown up in. A therapy session, paid in cash, signed by his father. He handed it to her without a word. She read it, then laughed. Not with humor, just disbelief. He knew. He knew. "You weren't okay, and told everyone I was." She folded the paper once, then again. Slid it into her purse like it belonged there. "I might need that someday," she said. Heartbeat hook. The bench creaked this time. Just a whisper, but enough. He cleared his throat. "Tomorrow's my birthday. I know. I didn't plan to see you today. I didn't plan to be allowed." They both watched a couple walk by. The woman pushing a stroller. The man balancing a coffee on a tired smile. No one spoke to them. The world moved like it hadn't waited. "You can come," he said. "Tomorrow, if you want. I won't bring cake." "Don't bring anything." They stood, at the same time. As if the weight had lifted just enough to make standing possible, but the photo hid something worse. He looked at her again. Saw her flinch when the wind caught her scarf. And in that tiny recoil, he saw her not the mother who vanished, but the woman who'd been hunted by shame and still chose to stay in the game. "Mom," he said. It came out too soft. She blinked, not fast enough to hide the tear. "Say that." Again. He didn't. He just took the envelope marked 16 and tucked it into his jacket. The scar on his wrist grazed the paper. She saw it. Said nothing. "If justice still matters, you'll want the next page." He walked away without goodbye, but her hand stayed outstretched, hovering over the air where his had been, as if holding 1 minute bought back from the years. The first lie he ever told was in kindergarten. "My mom's just away on a long trip," he whispered when someone asked. The teacher smiled, too politely, like she already knew. 10 years later, his voice didn't tremble when he picked up the mic. The room wasn't large, but it was packed. Rows of folding chairs, some leaning, some too upright. The kind of crowd where truth could still crack open like a fault line. At the back sat a woman in a soft gray coat, her hands pressed tight in her lap, as if holding something that might fall apart if she let go. Eli unfolded the paper slowly, careful not to smudge the corners. It wasn't just any paper. It was the letter marked 16, still creased from where it had once lived in his jacket, still inked in her slanted, apologetic hand. "This is her handwriting," he said, not looking up. The first time I heard her voice in a way that didn't make me flinch. A pause. Not for effect, he needed it to breathe. "Heartbeat Hook," she said. "You don't know me, but I watched you from distances I didn't choose. You were not silence to me. You were sound I wasn't allowed to answer." He let the silence hang. A few heads turned toward the woman in gray. She didn't blink, just smiled, the kind that cost something. "I'm not here to forgive or forget. I'm here because lies grow when no one names them." He looked up now. His eyes didn't scan, they found. She left. She stayed gone, but she also wrote, every year, every birthday, until the letters turned into confessions, and the confessions turned into maps. He held up a second item. A small worn tape recorder. The same one she used when she couldn't risk mailing words. Now it faced him, its red light blinking. "She gave me this the day I asked her what my name meant to her. She said, it used to sound like regret. Now it sounds like music." I didn't believe her, until I played it back. A few people wiped their eyes. Some didn't try to hide it. The thing no one tells you about being lied to as a child is that you don't know who you are when the truth comes. You rebuild. But you don't start from scratch, you start from scar. He looked at the letter again, folded it once neatly. His fingers lingered. "My father once told me silence was safer than truth. I believed him, until I realized safety was the same word he used to keep her gone." Heartbeat Hook. From the back, the woman raised her hand, not high, just enough. He met her eyes. For a breath, neither of them looked away. "I speak now," Eli said, softer, "because I don't want another child thinking they were too difficult to love, too loud to keep, too broken to be told the truth." He stepped down from the mic. The room stayed still. No applause. Just listening. "If justice still matters, you'll want the next page." In her lap, she held the locket. Open. Inside, a photo torn down the middle, but now taped back, his baby face on one side, her younger one on the other. The tape recorder blinked twice, then stopped.